Thank you. Ready, Teresa? Okay, I'll call to order the April 11th meeting of the Village of Weston Plan Commission. Secretary, call roll, please.
Yep, I'm Teresa Coleman, I'm utility clerk. I'm stepping in for Valerie, who's on vacation. Lauren White,
Here.
Steve Minell,
Here.
Steve Cronin,
Here.
Gary Gurn,
Here.
Joe Jordan,
Here.
Gail Marshall,
He has tendered his resignation from this commission or committee and will not be here.
okay. Roy Mumford,
Here.
Mark Maloney,
Here.
and Shane Gomez.
Here. Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Yes, we,
Public comment period. This is a time when, if there is something that's coming up further in the agenda that you wish to make comments on.
Hushain, Lauren,
Yes, sir.
just, with someone missing, can Hushain be up for the 7?
Sure you can.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, Mr. Zagami, would you care to,
We flip the coin.
decline?
Lost as usual.
Two-headed one?
We'll just put a wig on you, we'll go to Gail.
Grab this one.
Gail can also be a guy's name.
Yeah.
Well, my friend's dad's name is Gail.
I'll go get my wig out of the truck.
That's okay, you can have that. I know.
Remember, he knows people. I know he does.
I'd like to make note that Mr. Zagami is filling in for Gail Marshall's absence.
yep,
So if there's anyone in the audience or on social media who wishes to make a comment at this time, please do so. Otherwise, you can save your comments to when your particular issue shows up in the agenda. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a public comment.
Sure, go ahead.
I would like to publicly thank you for all your years of service to Weston and on the planning commission. You've done an incredible job. And
Thank you.
I just would like to.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Okay, enough of that. Okay. Minutes from previous meeting, item 3. Minutes from March 14th, 2022 joint PC and ETZ meeting. We can only approve it on behalf of the Plan Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Jordan, second by Cronin. On the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. Item 4, minutes from the March 29th, 2022 joint PC and Board of Trustees meeting. Approval only for the Plan Commission members.
Move to approve.
Moved by Garrett, second by Mumford. On the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. Communications, disclosures, and recusers. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusing during this time. Do we have any written communications received? None? Thank you. Moving on to the agenda, we're going to have, I believe it's 2 public hearings. Is that correct, Jen?
correct.
First one is item number 6, zoning map amendments, conditional uses, and related requests. Project number 20220096. Chuck Thatcher, Thatcher Construction and Remodeling, 2183 97 County Road, Hatley 54440, on behalf of property owners Kurt and Dodie Swanson, hopefully that's pronounced correct. 5005 Apache Lane, Weston, requesting a conditional use permit to allow a proposed addition to an existing accessory structure for residential use, where the addition exceeds the maximum allowable height of 15 feet by 2 feet, and where the addition causes the overall accessory structure to exceed the maximum allowable square footage of 1,000 square feet by 8 square feet within the single family residential large lot on property known as 5005 Apache Lane, PIN number 192-2808-151-0031, consisting of 0.57 acres. The addition to the existing accessory building is proposed to be 17 feet tall, and the overall accessory structure with the addition will become a total of 1,008 square feet. I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by staff?
I guess I got this one.
Sir. Step
The
forward.
resident is here in behalf, I'm building inspector.
Okay,
Okay, so due to the fact that he wants to put a higher door in the garage, therefore the header has to be moved up, and therefore the roof framing will be moved up 2 feet higher than what is allowed. Also with the square footage, as the trusses lay out, it minimally came over the 1,000-foot limit, so that's why Chuck was putting in for the.
it's actually adding on to a building that already is there.
Right, yes, it's an existing detached garage.
Any of the plan commission members have a question for Mr. Tetro? Okay. Okay, public comment period. Are you Mr. Staff?
Yeah, Chuck is not unable to attend tonight. He's at church, but Kurt Swanson. I'm the homeowner and I think, hopefully pretty clear, what we're looking to do here within the proposal. So I have an existing detached garage, 20 by 20, 30 by 24, actually. Looking for a little more room and also to be able to get my boat into there without having to remove the bimini top for storage in the winter. So that's why I'm looking for the 9-foot door. So with that, we'd have that staggered step, basically adding 12-foot on to the front of the existing garage, carrying over that same appearance that matches the rest of the existing structure, still under the existing house measurements, and many of the houses within that area are 2-story or higher pitch that are even higher than the existing structure.
Is there any questions that the plan commission members have? I don't have anything. I don't. None? Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there any other questions or anyone either in favor or in opposition? Michael, on social media?
Nobody online.
Anyone else in the audience in favor or in opposition? Anyone in favor or in opposition? Nothing more from plan commission members? See none? I'll close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff?
Staff recommends approval. I did pass out the determination form.
Right. We'll do that as we go along. Was the plan commission ready to go through the determination? Item 1, is the proposed conditional use consistent with the comprehensive plan, this chapter, and all other plans, programs, and ordinance adopted by the village?
Yes.
Item 2, the proposed conditional use in its proposed location and as depicted on the required site plan will not result in a substantial or undue adverse impact on nearby property, the character of the neighborhood, environmental factors, traffic factors, parking, public improvements, public property or rights of way, or other matters affecting the public health, safety, or general welfare, either as they now exist or as they may in the future be developed as a result of the implementation of the provisions of this chapter, the comprehensive plan, and all other plans, programs, and ordinances adopted by the village. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. 3, does the proposed conditional use will maintain the desired consistency of land use intensities and land use impacts as related to the environs of the subject property?
Yes.
4, is the proposed conditional use located in an area that will be adequately served by and will not impose an undue burden on any of the improvements, facilities, utilities, or services provided by public agencies serving the subject property?
Yes.
Item 5, do the potential public benefits of the proposed conditional use outweigh potential adverse impacts of the proposed conditional use after taking into consideration the applicant's proposal and any requirements recommended by the applicant to ameliorate such impact?
Yes.
Yes. Yes on all 5. Okay. Discussion and action by the planning commission.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Moved by Minell, second by Garrett to approve. On the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Thank you. Item 7. That was pretty quick. Project number 20220044, Dan Higginbotham, Plover River Land Company, 2625 Northwestern Avenue, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. On behalf of property owner Darrell Will, 223565 Ranch Road, Ringgold, 54476. Requesting a rezone from RR5 Rural Residential 5 acre to RR2 Rural Residential 2 acre on 4.41 acres of the existing overall 17.5 acre vacant parcel to allow for the division and creation of 2 residential parcels to consist of 2.11 acres and 2.30 acres. This vacant parcel is known as PIN number 192-2808-241-09999 and is located north of Schofield Avenue, abutting the eastern border of the village of Weston. I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
Well, I guess we can have Dan maybe give a little presentation.
Sure.
There's one thing that we have noted in the staff report is along with the rezoning, there's also a proposal for a CSM. When was that? In December we met about the possible subdivision creation. So right now that subdivision is not on the table at this point, correct?
Well, I guess we want to talk about it tonight just a little bit, if we can, at least in preliminary discussion format.
Okay, so I guess the question still remains though, if the rezoning is approved, that there still needs to be a street extension into this property in order to access the two lots that are proposed to be created. It's not been discussed yet with either Darrell or Dan and town of Ringgold, I guess, about who's gonna own that road. I should say maintain that road. I guess at this point, it would be logical that Ringgold would do that, but we don't know that they would have to have an agreement. As we talked about with, this becomes a challenge with some of these properties. I know that they're unable to have another crossing of the Mountain Bay Trail, the railroad right of way, other than the one that they already have into the subdivision in Ringgold. And there originally was some discussion about this street being extended parallel to the water, the river, and extending over into the Caribou Estates subdivision area. So I guess just a kind of an overview here of what the situation is. And maybe I'm talking about the wrong street extension because I think you may have been talking about a southern one. So I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. I guess there've been a couple of things that have happened kind of like Keith said, that we've been, and by the way, I'm Dan Higginbotham, 2625 Northwestern Avenue, Wausau. We started discussion with Weston late last fall regarding I handed out Arrowhead first edition to you guys. This Arrowhead subdivision was completed in the early 2000s in the in the town of Ringgold, rather, we're right on the town village line between the two subdivisions. Darrell and Darrell's family has owned the property since the 1930s. And they also owned the subdivision to the west of Arrowhead First Edition, which is River Point subdivision, which is accessed off of Highway J. And that is further west. And I handed out to some of the Plan Commission members that subdivision as well, just to kind of give you an overview of the whole area. So the Ringgold subdivision, Arrowhead, was developed, and Ringgold requires only 1 acre lots. So the majority of the lots to the east are 1.2 to 1.5 acre lots. The lots within Weston in the River Point subdivision are actually 1/2 to 2/3 of an acre on the Eau Claire River to the west off of J. There's just one property owner in between Daryl's family's land holdings between this Arrowhead area and River Point, and that's Henry Hack, who accesses his land off of Schofield Avenue. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is because ultimately what Daryl would like to do is develop the Arrowhead First Edition with lots that are roughly 1.2 to 1.5 acres, which isn't presently allowed for with the RR2 zone, which we are seeking tonight. It just so happens that, as you can see with that Arrowhead First Edition that we laid out, gave to you guys, that the two lots to the north that we're presently seeking rezoning on are over 2 acres, the way that they laid out, just because of their access. And in the midst of the discussion of creating this certified survey map, it looks like there's gonna be one gentleman that purchased both of those lots. So it's probably going to be a 2-lot subdivision. The lot that we're creating, which is going to be roughly 5 acres to the north, and then the remainder of the land to the south is going to be what ultimately happens here. So to Keith's point, as far as the extension of Riverbank Road or Riverbank Lane, whatever it's called, that may not have to occur at this point until we would get further along with the village on the further extension and further subdivision of the remainder of Arrowhead First Edition. We could, and we have not discussed this with Jeremy. Jeremy's here in back. Jeremy Lewitsky is the person that's going to be more than likely purchasing lots 37 and 38 as laid out on that Arrowhead First Edition. So it probably should have come up here in the last couple of days with Jeremy, but I don't know if this is a discussion that we can have later once the rezoning is approved. So if the rezoning is approved, then we'll talk to staff and get Jeremy involved and Daryl involved as far as the need for the present extension of Riverbank Lane. So because we're not proposing we're going to have to do a certified survey map, but it's not as part of an exhibit for tonight's approval. If that makes sense, or if I'm muddying the waters, I don't know. It makes sense to me, but I don't know if it makes sense to you from
Well, Dan, the Arrowhead Estates First Edition is only a preliminary proposal at this point?
That's correct. We discussed it with the staff late last fall, and we're kind of in the process of moving forward toward that direction if we can.
What you're calling lots 37 and 38 are actually part of that 17-acre parcel?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So it's a vacant parcel at this point.
I think I have a question.
Yes, sir.
These roadways would be in the village of Weston, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is the expectation for the village to maintain them, such as once it's all built out, everything is accepted, the maintenance, our plows would have to drive all the way around and come back and do these little strips. Is that the proposal, or are you trying to work out something with Ringgold?
We have not had any discussion with Ringgold at this point. I don't know if that would be a village to town discussion or a developer to town discussion.
We're not approving a plat.
No, sir.
Which would have the road, we're just.
No.
Okay.
All you're doing is, all we're seeking tonight is the rezoning approval so that we can move forward with the certified survey.
So if you sell off the upper portion there, you're gonna have some type of a road dedication with an easement or something for the person buying it.
Right, there may not have to be a road dedication, it may just be an easement at this point for road dedication once we work out with the village as far as the.
Dan, is there a current road easement off of,
It's a public road right up to the village line at this point.
It's installed already?
It's actually paved, yes.
Okay.
And utilities are brought right up to that point.
It just stops at the Ringgold Weston boundary.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Same thing
so
with the Chippewa Trail it's at the border too.
right now it's acceptable, Dan, for him to just put a driveway in and it'll be on a potential easement for a future road.
Right, correct.
Understood.
Well, in this picture, further west, I would assume the outline of blue is the 17 acres. And
Yes, sir.
There's more south of there.
Yeah, Daryl owns in the next 40 to the south. He owns another 13 to 14 acres there.
So
See a copy?
are you still at 37 and 30, are they gonna be combined as a lot or are they separate?
Yes,
Gonna be combined as one?
yes, sir.
Is there a cul-de-sac in there?
What's this?
There,
Going to get one drawing, kind of a dash line or a headland line on there as a cul-de-sac?
when we were originally looking at this to lay out two lots there, the assumption was that we would have to provide a public road to
27.
to serve lots 26 and 27, 37, those two lots there. But since Jeremy is
Purchasing both.
purchasing both lots, we may just be able to do an easement to Jeremy at this point with then further discussions with the village on the extension of the creation of Arrowhead First Edition.
So, Dan, just to clarify, does that stub road get plowed right now?
I think isn't there,
Yes, it does.
the property owner up to the north has his driveway off of that road.
Okay.
If we approve this tonight, would he be able to go ahead and build then?
We would still have to have a certified survey map approval through staff.
And
I mean, it may end up being through plan commission if there requires dedication.
And from a public safety standpoint, how would we deal with that home if it went up in flames?
There's public roadway to the edge of his land, to the edge of his lot, just like there's several locations.
But I don't know if those things are off-road, right? I mean,
Well, you go up his driveway.
you gotta
He
drive.
would have a driveway that would.
Because ultimately, at the end of Riverbank Lane, he's just gonna extend his driveway.
The only
It's gonna be on a future easement for a roadway, so eventually his driveway, they'll have to, when they build the rest of the road, they'll have to give him access to his driveway during that road building process, but if he paves up there, his pavement would get torn out later when they do the road extension.
So we wouldn't have an issue then.
The only precaution I have is if they expect fire apparatus, particularly some of the stuff they have is really heavy to get that far back, his driveway would have to be strong enough to handle some pretty heavy, when you've got a truck that's hauling 10,000 gallons of water, that's pretty heavy.
Well, our driveway off of Northwestern Avenue is about 500 feet long. We've got 3 water rescues already with 7 heavy equipment vehicles coming into our driveway, and they've got the Camp Sturtevant, access sign there and a 90-degree corner coming into our driveway, which they haven't had any problems getting into or out of.
I just want to make sure that the roadway is adequate to support, particularly in spring thaw, and some of that stuff is pretty heavy.
Well, let's just ask Jeremy. Jeremy, where's your plan for your house? Is it probably closer to where it's back there?
I don't know where your mouse is, right over there.
Right here?
A little bit south.
Yeah, it's almost by the 27,
It is.
or 37, whatever that is.
Correct.
Yeah, so you're gonna be feasible enough to get access to.
Any other questions for Mr. Higginbotham?
So Dan, crossing Mountain Bay Trail is only allowed by the state?
Yes.
What circumstance?
Railroad.
The rails to trails, Daryl had to fight like crazy because the location right now, Arrowhead, there was no access there, but there was a previous access for Old State Highway 29. If you're familiar with the Hack property, that bridge on the Hack property used to be the Highway 29 bridge. And so Highway 29 used to cross north of the railroad tracks and then come back south. So because Highway 29 used to cross the tracks there, they gave Daryl access for Arrowhead. But I don't know if you've ever tried to gain access across railroad tracks, but it's not a pretty sight.
That's not fun.
No.
Even though they don't use it anymore.
Right, no, exactly.
It's like entering another country.
So who actually owns the Mountain Bay Trail?
It's I don't know if the state of Wisconsin owns it or if, I don't know what the cooperative agreement is with the rails, but I know that at some point, if the rail needed that access, they could reconvert the rail to trail back to a rail line.
The DNR controls, we ran into the same problem with the construction of the school out there. They wouldn't allow more than fact, that entrance had to be treated for the old intersection with Callan.
Yeah, usually Dan, when Wassa tried to do it off Northwestern, they wanted Wassa just for one entrance to their soccer field at Northwestern. They wanted them to take 2 crossings in the city of Wassa for their streets out if they gave them one. So it's very, very difficult for any crossings.
That was probably the active rail line they were trying to cross.
Yes.
So in other words, they wanted to close off streets.
2 for 1.
They don't want much, didn't they?
So anyway, yeah, it would be near impossible to gain another access point to the subdivision, so we'll have to be satisfied with the one existing access point. The only caveat to that would be if we could ever work out an agreement with the owner of the Henry Hack property to the west, where Henry's now deceased, but Clarence, where we could actually make a access point from this subdivision through to River Point.
That's why we've got a dedication at the end of the roadway there.
Correct.
So you could eventually take it back through Hack's property. So.
Anyway,
So the biggest, I guess the only thing at that point is maybe that, to your point, Lauren, at the end of that cul-de-sac, maybe that just needs to be a little bit larger so that there might be an island in it for some of the bigger equipment or whatever to get around.
I know when the village, has specifications for cul-de-sacs, there's a certain diameter that it has to be to allow the largest piece of apparatus to turn around. You understand the reason why.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so I guess to paraphrase or to come back around to what ultimately we'll be asking for at some meeting in the future is we would like to be able to develop the Arrowhead First Edition with smaller than 2-acre lots. We've done 10 soil borings out there. Tim Zaromsky, the soils are all suitable for in-ground septic systems without any modifications to mound systems or holding tanks or anything like that. So I mean, it's a perfect spot for development, but yet, if we were, the 2 acres is out of character for the neighborhood, and we would just like to, at some point, be able to come back with sub 2-acre lots. So, anyway.
So the reason that the 2 acres is required is because it's not sewered. So the way that our comprehensive plan, there's that future land use map, it has to be sewered in order for it to go to the 1 acre. And that is shown, it was shown as a future sewered. So that's something that we're gonna have to look at in the whole scheme of things when we bring up the land use again to decide how you guys wanna see that develop.
But right now it perks for a conventional system.
And I completely agree with where this is going. We had another conversation with a developer, Keith, we've talked about, or we've ran into that situation over off of Bushka, where we had even some larger lots, depending upon the soils, that the mounds were put in and it contaminated the wells downstream because there was slope. So those were 2 to 5 acre lots, and it still affected the one customer had $30,000 in 3 different wells that they couldn't get. So then the village has to then extend and blast sewer or blast water up there, no sewer. So they have drinking water. So it really depends upon the soils. Thank you for saying that. It really depends upon the soils, what you're getting in the filtration. But if you have minimum amount of soil underneath a mound system to bedrock, fractured bedrock, it's very easy for that soil. It's too fast. It doesn't have enough time to percolate and also clean up the soil before it gets to the bedrock. And then it'll wither its way right down to the groundwater, and then you'll get fecal matter into your well, and you can't drink it. So this is really good, suitable. So you would have to probably see the soils, obviously. It's sandy soil out there. But I can recall most all those other houses in that subdivision are all conventional systems, aren't they?
But across the street is county concrete's sand.
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Cronin?
Were you saying that you'd want to see a cul-de-sac put in on the end of that, on the end?
The village is not, but he has, we're not in favor of cul-de-sacs, but as you can see, he has a proposed street out the key of that to go further to the west, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I was making sure you weren't talking about just what we're looking at approving tonight, right on the end of Riverbank?
No, I
You're
don't,
talking further down the line.
I don't.
That would just be a private road for, or private driveway right now, because the road extends to the property line.
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yep. Get it.
That was just when they do put in cul-de-sacs.
Sure.
We've had down many dead end roads that don't have cul-de-sacs and still make the run. At least it was.
Sewer and water's to the corner of J?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay, is there any other public comment period? Or do you have any further questions for Mr. Higginbotham? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishes to speak in favor or in opposition? Anyone on social media, Michael?
No.
Anyone?
Yes. Jason Wetzling, I live in Ringgold in the Arrowhead subdivision.
Step forward and name and address for the record, please.
Jason Wetzling, 223-950 Arrowhead Trail.
Okay.
And I guess I came to understand more of what was being planned for development. My concern lies with the way the Arrowhead Trail subdivision was laid out. As was mentioned, most of the lots are 1.25 acres to 1.5 acres. And these two lots, as they're laid out in the survey, show over 2 acres. But what's really usable there for building is, if you look at it and lay it out, is 1.75 acres. It's under 2 acres. What's really usable there between the two, because much of what's included in the survey is either river bottom, or the river bank. So, I mean, my concern is if and when this is developed in that field to the west of our subdivision, that it gets done in a manner that's consistent with the way the Arrowhead Trail subdivision was originally laid out. And that was lots greater than 1 acre. And then there were a full set of covenants that governed home size, home construction, and things like that, so that there wouldn't be a negative impact on home values in the existing subdivision. Now, I mean, if the lots 26 and 27 were sold together, would certainly eliminate that concern on those two pieces of property. But it would also be good to understand what the potential plan is for the rest of that development. Again, because of the lot size and how much land is really usable there compared to what lays out in a map, because of the lines being drawn out into the river. The other concern has to do with drainage. I'm in lot, I believe it's 19 on that map. And I experienced in the spring some drainage out of lot 28 into my yard, which is to be expected with some spring runoff. But what I would not want to see is if there was a road put in there and other houses, is that the drainage would potentially negatively impact my lot and maybe the others that border as well. Unfortunately, I'm the recipient of a water management plan that wasn't executed quite real well by the town of Ringgold. So I end up with water in the front of the yard, and I really don't care to see a subdivision come in behind the house that would cause more water to come into my yard. So just concerns about, that when it's developed, that it's done in a manner that's consistent with the way ours was done.
Understandable. And I would assume when there's a further site, if this site is developed and a further site plan. Mr. Higginbotham, could you respond to that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if I could, can I grab this from you, Gary? Thank you. This is the existing subdivision. This is so it's very consistent.
Well, I guess it is and it isn't, because I guess as you look at the lots that border the river, if they say they're 1 acre, really from the top of riverbank back to road is less than 1 acre. From the top of that bank, and it's a pretty good drop. That's unusable. So these lots here, while they may, this seems concerning.
At this point, we're rezoning. So we're getting discussions into further down the line. So is there any other public comments, either for or against? Any further comments for or against? Anything else online? Michael, nothing online? Okay. I'll close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff?
Staff recommendation is to defer until we have discussed how the street would be handled. There really hasn't been any discussion about that until, I mean, we did talk about the overall concept of the subdivision last time we got together. But I think we want to have a more concrete plan as to that street being, it should be public access to those lots. If it's rezoned, there's the ability to create two lots that are 2 acres minimum without any other action.
And
As I see it.
I would like to see the CSM before, I think that should come to you. Just because I want to make sure that we're rezoning the proper portions too, that he's staying within that. This has kind of changed. This actually first came to us for the March meeting, but Dan was not going to be in attendance. And then Valerie was working on it and it kind of changed again. So this is kind of the first that I'm hearing that this road might not be there. So I guess I would defer until, I would ask you to defer so we could look into things a little bit more and have something more concrete for you guys to look at.
Mr. Maloney?
Can I just ask a question with the staff recommendation of deferring? Is that another public hearing?
No, you basically, so the way, on any hearing that you have, you always have the ability to, it's either 30 or 45 days to be able to basically look at things and then come back and make your decision.
So no extra fees, no extra? Okay.
No, it's just
Thank you.
come to the next meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions by plan commission?
I do. Also, go ahead. Dan, can you drop a CSM in a relatively short period of time?
Oh, you got it.
And Dan, will you be doing a CSM for the just one lot then?
It'll be one lot on the north and then Weston requires the remainder of the property, so it'll be a 2-lot CSM. One lot to be sold and one lot for the remainder of the property.
Okay. And then, obviously, it's the best interest, but formality, we would want to make sure that there's a road right away, right? And the drive would be on that easement for the right of way. But you're going to do that for the best interest to access it later anyway.
Yeah, I guess to your question, Gary, I don't know if you want me to discuss this with plan commissioner or with staff. I mean, we could do the CSM omitting the road right of way, just showing the curved lots, the southeast border of the lots be curved, showing a future road right of way there, or we could dedicate the road right of way and not build it for Jeremy's access purposes at this time.
Just be a driveway.
It'd just be a driveway, however you would prefer to see it.
We've got to look into that a little bit.
Yeah, it could be a further.
It's a little messy.
Right, it can be a further discussion.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
just took care of one, in the Windermere subdivision, that was like that, that was someone's driveway. So yeah, I'd like to look at it a little bit more and make sure that we've got it so that Jeremy doesn't have any issues in the future.
That's the biggest thing. He has to understand that his driveway, but whoever's going to develop it has to make sure they maintain access to his driveway.
Yeah, so I just want to, look through the subdivision code to make sure that this is doable, this new way. And then we can bring that back to you.
I have one other question for Dan is on that plat that you had shared, Dan. I know it's pretty preliminary. Has there been any stormwater management at all, Dan, done on that, or is it just ditching and stormwater?
We've not. We would propose just ditching, but because there's plenty of access to the river.
Okay.
But we'd have to work with.
Yeah, okay. So you may lose a little bit of a one lot or something like that, or whatever it may be. Okay. And again, that's something completely different than what we're trying to prove tonight, so I guess. That's all the questions I
We
have.
have a recommendation and a request from staff to defer. It's up to the plan commission.
Joe, you want to do it?
Yeah, so I move to defer to the next planning commission meeting, subject to Dan drawing up a CSM that staff can review.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Jordan, a second by Cronin. Do you have the motion? On the question? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. Deferred until the next meeting. And I will, Mr. Higginbotham, I'm assuming you will work with staff on this.
Yeah, we'll talk to Jeremy, to Daryl, and then with staff here over the next week or so, and we'll get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming in.
We have, our next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We have none. New business. Item 8, project number 202000367, Norcon Corporation, 9102 Progress Way, amendment to landscape plan approved on 12/22 of 1920. Okay,
So this is, I think it was 2020 that this came through for plan commission approval and village board approval. It's a lot in the business park, so it went through because we sold it to them. You guys were the site plan approval authority. They are now getting ready to put up the fence that was proposed in the original site plan. And they are asking to move it to the property line. Prior, they had it kind of more defining the lot, and then they had a gate. And so they are proposing to take it all the way to the property line in that red, and there will be a gap right now for that future building. I do not know the time frame on the building. So that would be my only concern, is that you might want to put, if you approve this, you might want to put some kind of a deadline on closing it.
have they made any notions as far as when?
They just finished the other one, so if I remember correctly, I thought it was going to be within 3 years, but
Yeah, because we mainly want to, you gotta get, just sneak up there. Tell me there.
We don't like disembodied voices.
Oh, I'm Justin from Norcon. So we mainly want to get the gate put in on the front entrance, but we just kind of put but we kind of want to get the whole fence put in at the same time. But instead of running it down the middle of the property, we were thinking we might as well just extend it all the way to the property line. Because at the time when we did the land use plan, we weren't sure if we were going to try to develop that whole, or, make that whole thing outdoor storage. But now we'd like to do that.
Business is that good?
Well, we gotta have the fence contractor come anyway, so we figured we might as well just have him do the whole thing, so.
Save a little bit of money on mobilization costs.
Yeah.
Is this a shield fence, or is this just a regular fence, security fence?
It's an 8-foot, it's gonna have the privacy slats.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's supposed to for sure on the west side. Cause that's exposed to the.
Because right now, I think, which we communicated, we allowed for the trees to be in there, but I think you guys must have some concrete piled up there right now, you can see from the highway.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my only concern, that's what we try our best to do, is to shield some of that stuff.
Okay.
And just as long as we can either get some more trees up there, I guess that's my only input, and.
Okay, yeah.
And my other suggestion is if the fence people want something temporary, we work with you guys all the time. We got fencing if you guys want to just pile some temporary stuff in there, if the staff or planning commission is willing to, unless they're willing to allow it not to be in there. If they want it in there, we can give you guys that temporary stuff and you can just get it back.
And there was some trees, but when we had the surveyor, it comes right at that 12-foot off the lot. So we ended up having to take those down.
Sure.
Because our neighbors actually, they have a sprinkler system that's on our property that we discovered after the surveyor was there. But they don't use it, so it wasn't a big deal to them.
Oops.
So. But you're saying, Gary, that You mean just to put up the fence to block the west?
I don't think you're gonna, to be honest with you, Justin, is when you go by the highway, I think that's our position at the planning commission is to make sure that we don't, you know, see nuisances or that you can't see it, right? So when, right now, when you do go by on the highway, you do see the piles. And those are what we're supposed to be doing on our end is making sure that.
The piles don't get any higher than the fence.
Yeah, and actually, we plan on taking those out. In fact, I wasn't happy that they dumped them there.
Yeah, but anyway, if we, even the 8-foot fence, the way the highway's sitting, you're gonna see it anyway.
Right.
And that was my only point, was, I didn't know if some of those trees got yanked over there.
Yeah.
Might have affected the appearance of it. That could potentially what happened, but.
Okay. And we still have there's a row of trees, you know, on the freeway. But that's not, yeah, it's not high enough and you can see like if you're going eastbound.
You guys did a great job with it. It's just on that far corner, you can see
Yeah.
concrete from the highway. And that, all I'm saying is that even if we can plant some pine trees or something back there or whatever.
Okay. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Thank you for answering the questions.
Okay.
Any more questions from the planning commission? I think, I personally think that it's appropriate to have a deadline as, finish this by so many years if we're gonna approve the gap in the fencing.
I would tend to agree.
I guess, Justin, did you say when you would have that building done, you guessing?
We're not sure. We're still working with Wanta on when our plan is to do it like within 3 years.
I get it, cause steel went through the roof.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, understood.
What do you, 3 years, 5 years?
3 years, 5 years. I think we'd want to give them a little bit more leeway than just 3. If your plan is 3
Yeah,
years.
let's do it 5 if we can. Yeah.
Sounds like
I'd have asked for 10. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I get it. So if it's not, why don't we just say if it's not 3 years, then,
Well, you can make a motion that it has with a deadline of 5 years. It's how you can word the motion if you wish.
I think regardless of the fence or 5 years or whatever, they should move the concrete.
Justin, did you guys have anything in your conditional use as far as that you would crush concrete there? I didn't get that far to look.
No, I don't think so, no.
Okay,
We never intended to do that, no.
okay.
Yeah.
Can you move that concrete?
Yeah, we can. We can take it to the Weston.
Sure.
Which is where they should have taken it, but yeah.
When can you do that?
I think we could do it pretty quick, like probably in a month.
Oh, that's
Justin.
great, yeah.
Justin, why don't we just have your brother come over and crush it, use it for a base for your future parking lot? It'd be a lot smarter.
Yeah, but I don't know if we have enough to justify it, or you mean.
Just then you don't have to haul it. You put it down. Put it down for a sub base.
Oh, that's what they were planning on doing. So,
If you just have to get the approval from them to do that,
yeah.
just be impacting it, and it'd take probably a day.
Whatever you want to do as soon as better.
Okay.
Somebody jump.
Question, did the concrete just appear or is that from? We have
Everybody brought it.
We do have some things, like if it was for a Weston project where the material needs to come back to our property, but if it wasn't that way, that's fine.
No, I can't
Okay.
remember what project that was.
Sure.
It might have been like more than one, yeah.
All right.
So Gary, this was not a conditional use, this was a permitted use by right.
I don't see conditional.
Okay.
Things are.
It's just an amendment to this, site landscaping.
Should we add the concrete to our approval?
Well, I don't think it's not like conditional use. But I think he has got the idea that the concrete shouldn't be that high.
Justin, why are you putting the rest of that? Are you doing it for security?
Well, mainly just because we had the fence guy come, when I put the gate in. So we kind of already had it set up.
Oh, well, what I'm asking is why are you putting the fence around where all the trees are already there? Are you doing it for security?
No, I guess we were under the impression we had to when we did the first land use plan.
No, you don't.
Oh, then we wouldn't want to, 'cause, yeah, we were wondering that ourselves. We thought maybe it was just because they needed, privacy or something on the back.
That's why the trees and such are there. We asked you to keep the trees. So you could shrink up your bill if you wanted to just wherever there's not trees and in the west side by your neighbor, by the, flooring
Yeah,
guy.
because right now, our only worry is, yeah, like on the west side. The east side right now is really, would be hard for anyone to access. We've already had problems with people coming in there and stuff. And
Yeah.
putting stuff in.
So you're not concerned about future if you have your equipment out there or security?
Not really, no.
I don't think you have to do anything unless, am I missing something, Keith and Jennifer? I don't think you have to do anything on the east side,
I would have to look. I don't know offhand right now.
cause you're in all in pine trees there.
Yeah, I guess we were just under the impression that we had to have that outdoor storage area surrounded by.
I think there might be a requirement
For
with the
screening.
outside storage for the contractor yard. I'd have to look.
We allowed trees on the, from the forest. I think I remember that. We allowed,
That was aesthetics of the building.
right?
They were doing
They don't have a
Fencing.
yard.
But I'm not sure that way.
Probably goes back to those
Fencing requirement there.
From the forest, doesn't have a yard.
Look,
Yeah, I think it was something because we're not paving it though. Well, I can't remember, but I guess we, maybe we just.
is it a gravel yard?
What's that?
Is it gravel?
Yes.
That might be why.
Cause it's gravel, now we put a fence up?
That was a requirement, Gary.
But if you can't see it where the trees are, and can you just landscape the westerly side of it and put a security gate up to keep people out? Is that acceptable? You follow what I'm asking?
What do they do?
If they replant with some pine trees to block the exposure to the west, that would address not being able to see anything, such as a gravel driveway. And
I
then
don't think you're opposed to doing the west side with a fence to shield the fence, are you?
No, we kind of figured that was gonna have to happen, because that's. You know, our neighbor's right there, the parking lot's right there.
All I'm getting at is at that point, then if we allow him to do that and just do his west side, then he can do his whole front side and not worry about it, because ultimately the little bit of fence you're gonna take out for the building, you could save by all the rest of the fencing all the way around the building that you don't have to do.
Right, no,
How much is that fence costing you, Justin?
it's like that whole run is, I wanna say like 48,000.
With the slats on it?
No, I had them exclude that because I figured we could, so.
Mine doubled.
So the way that the code read at the time that this was approved, and I don't know if it's changed or not, said all outdoor storage areas shall be completely enclosed by any permitted combination of buildings, structures, walls, and or fencing. Such walls or fencing shall be designed to completely screen all stored materials from view from non-industrial zoned areas and public rights of way, up to the maximum fence heights allowed under section 94.903.
Yeah, but I thought that it changed that night. If we ever remember, night, we had changed some of the zoning requirements that night.
And we don't want fencing in.
John Penrose, it wasn't he your partner? Yeah, I
Brother.
think he appeared here the night that it changed. Remember, I'm just saying.
I mean, Wausau, the industrial park, what is the industrial park? L1? Like, is it L1 or
The
what's
one here,
like Joe's? Or isn't this?
this is on the south side. Some of it's L1, yeah. The adjacent ones are L1, yeah.
So is that, like, we're not requiring those guys if they have outside storage to have it all fenced in, are we?
On the north side?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I'd have to look.
Allowed landscaping. Is that correct, Joe?
Outdoor storage is not typically allowed.
period. But you had your shingles and stuff that you moved, right?
Yeah.
There's a provision, cause
Yeah.
they cycle, the ones that are out there, a lot of them
Yep.
cycle it in and out, and there is a provision that was changed.
But Justin, don't you cycle your equipment in and out? It's
Oh, yeah,
all day, every day is a different day.
yeah. It's not like it's just the way it's stored, you know?
No,
Yeah,
it's moving all the time.
yep.
I guess I'd be okay if you just had the fence with the slats on the west side to block the view and then put a security gate in front there. You know, keep people out. I mean, you can't see anything.
Michael, what is to the east side?
To the east?
Is that Sunbelt?
No, that's
That's
vacant property.
Matthews lot?
Matthew's lot.
Yeah, it's all wooded. Yeah.
So Justin, is there trees on your property yet that would buffer if Matthew built?
No. I mean, they would be, there is some right on the lot line, but not, I'd have to look. The canopy's probably over the lot line. That's in 12 feet setback.
Guess we have to think of the neighbor at that point, right, for the future.
Yeah, if somebody were to come in and clear that lot, they would have the same problem as the west, on the east side, but.
Our ordinance says that it's required, correct?
That's what I'm looking for right now. Some of it was due to the land use.
No. Remember, I know all those trees out there. 21 years ago.
Yeah, no kidding.
So about that. But that's because we had.
They did all those trees that were just go for the trees.
Oh, that's what I'm.
Anyone care to offer a motion?
I think we're waiting on, to talk to Jen here.
Okay.
If we have tree lines and buffering a yard, I didn't know we still had to fence it and shield it. I thought as long as we had buffering trees, we were okay.
It still just says all outdoor storage areas shall be completely enclosed by any permitted combination of buildings, structures, walls, and or fencing. Such walls or fencing shall be designed to completely screen all stored materials from view from non-industrial zoned areas and public rights of way up to the maximum fence height allowed under section 94-903. So it would just be on the north, so it's state 29, and on Progress Way that it would be required. Because the other lots are
So are we?
industrial.
They are industrial?
Well, they're both zoned
Okay.
L.
Yeah, everything over there is LI.
Yeah.
So you'd only have to have it on the north side and the south side, correct?
The highway frontage.
And the north side, I thought
I don't know, this is just what was proposed and that's what was said.
Sure.
They may have just proposed it, I don't know. At one time, we did talk about basically some security issues, because I mean, I know there's security issues out there. You've had stuff at your place
yes, we have.
and my husband has had stuff at his place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't sound like it is required on the north, or on the two, the west and the east. But then that's kind of a strange fence, so I guess it's up to you guys.
Well, I'd say, Justin, you'd wanna, you have to have it on Progress Way side, so would you be happy if you just went straight over to, so it doesn't look goofy right now? For 3 years, that you went straight over to the,
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
and then take it to the highway, to wherever the trees are,
Yep.
and then be done with it? Unless you're concerned about theft or,
No, I mean, the west side, somebody could probably drive in there, in the summer. It would be hard on the east side. So, but our main worry was right now is just we want to get that gate put in. So
How soon are you looking to do this?
probably, I think he's talking like July was when he had a opening to do it.
Do we want to defer this for a month to give him some time to talk with staff and get a better plan drawn out for us and figure out what the ordinances are?
For what you're proposing, there's a cheaper way to do it, I think is what Steve's getting at. And you might want to talk to staff to make sure it meets what your requirement is. I'm okay with doing what you propose here, but if you can save another 30 grand.
Because we were wondering why the north one had to be put up. It's already got a two-way fence.
And that's my thought. If we defer it for a month, that'd give you some time to talk with staff, get an idea of what the ordinances are, what you need to do and what you don't need to do, and then we can bring it back and approve it.
Justin, did
Or,
we do
or
this?
deny, however it goes.
Who did your site plans?
Oh, MTF.
MTS. At the time, Nick might have just looked at the quote and thought that it needed to be fenced in all the way. And maybe misinterpreted or something. It might have just been on the plan.
Well, there was a lot going on with that.
Yeah, so I guess we want to be business friendly and we don't want to spend any more money than you have to, right? You got some trees buffering the highway, which is great because you really can't see in there. I think we talked about as long as you don't cut them trees down, then you're gonna need a fence.
Yeah.
And it's really not gonna do a whole lot of good being 8 feet because the highway's higher, right? So.
Yeah.
And that's the sucky part when we have that fence regulation there, we have a maximum of 8 feet high in there and really sometimes that doesn't even do any good in certain circumstances, what's it really buffering, But you don't want a big wind sail there either, I get that.
I'd like to make a motion to defer to May's meeting.
Okay, Mr. Cronin has made a motion to defer and seconded by Mr. Mumford. On the question.
You understand what you gotta do now, bud?
Yep.
Okay.
On the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Item 9, discussion on changes needed for the multifamily design guidelines and zoning regulations. You have a lead into this, Ken?
Not a real big lead. So these are kind of the two sections. It was brought up at the last meeting that we should discuss. I think there was a little bit of confusion. So the multifamily is still considered a commercial project, so they follow, once it gets to, I'm trying to think of what, the design guideline aspect of it, they follow more of the commercial route than the residential.
9 or more. I think
Yeah.
it's 3+.
Anything over a duplex typically.
3+ units.
But anything over a duplex, you have to come up with the same thing.
So this is the two sections, the different uses that have the performance standards, so attached, single family, two family, residential, and then the multifamily standards. So I don't know if you want to take this time to look at that table and maybe adjust it.
So I'm gonna ask the plan, have you looked through this document at all and picked things out? I did. So, is that okay, Jen, or did you have?
Yeah, I was just trying to get some
Right.
idea of what the issues were so that we could look into it
Right.
further and make sure it doesn't.
Based on what I heard at the meetings, I think one of the things that was mentioned is, if you take a look on page 81, we talk about security cameras in parking lots. That was talked about at one of the previous meetings. Was it really necessary? That's one of them.
Which
I don't
number
think-
is that?
16.
Page 81. Item number 16. And this is just what I found, and I would assume that other plan commissioners found other things.
And I guess one of the other things that I'll just bring up to, just to have everybody think a little bit about this now, let's put a 8-unit apartment and you're buffering residential homes next to it. And the 8-unit apartment has to be 50% brick or natural stone on the front.
then on all the rest of the sides, it needs to be 40%. But the residential house right next to it has just siding all the way around it. So that's the difficulty, and we're trying to get more multifamily or more tax base in, and some of it gets to be cost of, and you're trying to fit in a neighborhood, and that thing sticks out like a sore thumb because it's got so much extra.
And that's under 7 under improved materials. That's under
Yeah, and
80.
it's just something to think about. I'm not asking to cheapen
Right.
anything up, I'm just trying to,
Exactly.
it fits in, right? You got it highlighted as well.
So, and then the next thing that I found on page 86 was under 9410.3 sub 3, where it talks about licensed engineer or architect. You commented that you felt that there are circumstances where an architect and or an engineer should be involved in a project. So that's why I highlighted that one. Is it yes, no?
Well, I think we, at the last meeting, didn't we require on a commercial sometimes that we didn't have it, they didn't need to have it stamped?
But it had to be by an architect.
Yes.
Or an engineer.
Or an engineer, one of the two.
The state of Wisconsin requires that on commercial buildings anyway.
Yeah.
So this does.
By one or the other, correct?
And this states that licensed engineer or architect is required.
So it's meeting the state statutes anyhow.
Yes. And no matter what, Scott, you're right, it's gotta get sent to the state, so it needs to meet that anyway, right?
So the other thing, going further, I'm sorry, this is, I'm kind of taking over the conversations here. On page 88, under approved materials, this is where the discussion has been about how much needs to be brick, what kind of materials are covered, and it also talks about, had a discussion about facades that are longer than so many feet. There should be a breakup of color or in and outs. At least that's what I recall. And the last thing I found on page 89 was, I know this is kind of no brainer, but pole buildings shall be prohibited in any residential, commercial, and industrial zone districts. I think that was brought up once or twice about pole building. So, unless somebody, that's what I found.
Who determines what's a pole building, Scott?
I think Jim brought that up with his.
Poles, the post has to be bored into the ground.
Right.
Post frame construction, it can sit on the slab.
Okay. So I just thought maybe we should have that clarification somewhere in case, Scott, you're looking to retire. Who's the next person that comes in and they say, well, no, they say it's a wood above, that's a,
Yeah, it's post frame construction when you bolt them down, and it's pole when you.
Pole is set into the ground.
Yeah. So do we have that definition somewhere? that we can-
It says a pole building is a building with sides consisting of corrugated steel or aluminum panels supported by vertical poles secured in the ground to serve as both the foundation and framework.
So that defines it.
Excellent.
Corrugated materials, I think that's one of the ones that are not allowed in a lot of zoning districts because it looks like a pole barn type building anyhow, then with that type of siding.
So
I personally, I think the security cameras could come out. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but
I think so too.
Well, but it doesn't prohibit a developer from putting them in. If he feels-
correct, if a developer wants to put them in, yep, that's their own accord, but I don't think we need to require it.
You want me to come back with striking 16 totally out? or
I
just
think,
remove the R?
I think, Jen, I think everybody should just thank you for printing this and highlight it and we talk about it the next week.
Okay.
We can do that.
that's fine.
I think it's probably give everybody a chance to read through this thing and then highlight it and put some notes down and we can all chat about it, right?
There was another thing brought up that wasn't in this particular section. It was brought up by Mr. Garrett concerning garages facing the street. Remember that was several meetings back?
Yes.
For why was it appropriate for residents along the street to have all their garages facing the street when it wasn't appropriate for,
I believe that was changed in the last.
was it?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
strike
that's a
that.
good point, because it was on Willow, we had to come in because it wasn't in the code. They wanted us to reverse the building around, so you saw the backyard when you're going by, and we said, well, all the rest of the garages are on the whole front road right away. Why wouldn't we? It would make more sense for us to keep the garages on the front side and the other two buildings would be facing the same way. So that very good point, Lauren. I
So
don't
one of the
remember
things
where was, but
that came into my mind is if you have a row of like 8 garages all connected, and is that one large, huge driveway cut along the street, or does each garage have an individual curb cut? Because that could get it pretty stiff.
yes, what we had is there's a setback on the parking lot. And we just have ours parking lot and we have 2 entrances.
Oh, okay, 2 in, one way in, one way out, so they come in and then, okay.
I mean, our street access code would, I guess, restrict somebody from being able to just make it a one big driveway.
That's what popped into my mind, oh my God, you could have a 300-foot long access to a street, and that's probably not the best thing. But your further explanation helps.
Does it make sense to approach a couple of multifamily developers and ask them what costs or what things they would recommend?
I think some of that's gonna come out of those meetings that are just gonna start. So the first meeting with the housing group is this Thursday finally. And so as part of that, they're gonna use, the city of Wausau has like an affordable housing task force. So there will be public input meetings for basically the entire metro area. So we can take some of that information that we get from those meetings. I'm not sure if they're doing surveys. I know that they were gonna do a public meeting and they were gonna use, the city of Wausau's task force. We may have people that they want on there too. I guess I'll find out more on Thursday, but, the goal is to kind of get to that from people, like, how can we make the area more affordable for housing going forward?
But I was gonna say, that's a big, when I talked to Bill Hebert last week, a subdivision property that was on their extraterritorial zoning that I was asking, do you take over, do you tell us we have to have sewer and water, what do we have to do for this development? And he said, well, I assume you just wanna annex it, and he laughed, he said, we're really dying for a new subdivision, we need a subdivision badly. And I said, I explained to him, we all do, right? But it's the cost associated with that and the building materials, it's too risky for what the amount of money that it takes. So I think everybody's looking for how do we make this more affordable for development to bring tax base, and so whoever figures that out first is gonna be good. I know he was talking about they were potentially gonna take the paving and curb and gutter out of the picture until the thing is done and then try to assess property owner. He's trying to figure out, he's like, we're just trying to figure something out, like go back to the old fashioned way of doing it because of where the costs are and everything right now, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's gonna come out of this, but the county put money towards it. They actually put the brunt of the money towards it. The city of Wausau has a big chunk. And then each of the communities involved were asked to contribute, so.
This
as far as I know, all of them are, so.
This particular item doesn't require action, it can be, as you suggested, to go over for highlighted, so. Okay. Anything more on item 9? Okay.
I do. Go ahead. Do we then put this on the next agenda we'll make changes that night and then?
Yeah, then we'll have to schedule a hearing after that.
You're gonna be able to compare it though to the other communities by that?
No. I'll have a timeline for the project hopefully on Thursday. The RPC is the one leading it, and their staff member came from the city of Wausau. There's been a bunch of planners jumping in other communities right now. So he was underneath Brad Lyons at the city of Wausau, and he's now a planner at the RPC. So he's taking over that project because Carrie, who was leading it, went to Wisconsin Rapids. So.
So do we wanna wait on this?
I would say wait, because.
We can
continue talking about it so that I have some idea going into the meetings too. That would be helpful.
And just maybe not do the final until we get results.
Yeah, we can always pull things together later
It would be a
on.
good idea to read through it, all of us give our thoughts, even if we don't make changes that night.
Right.
That way you've got something, yeah.
And it doesn't stop you from going further into the code and find things that are irksome or that you feel are onerous. I found two words that I didn't particularly care for, and I mentioned it to Jen about it. It's silly, but to me, it was something that should be looked at. So, yes, I won't be here, but my spirit will be here, so. Anything else on 9 then? So we're gonna see that on, they're gonna see that on the agenda next meeting. Okay. Item 10, discussion on periodic reporting expectations for TID 2 development, redevelopment activity. Who has this?
I can take this. Jennifer, I had a telephone meeting with, or conference call with Kristen Fish, Redevelopment Resources last Thursday, talking about follow-up on the TID 2 project amendment and the TIF meeting open and then ramping up development, I guess one recruitment or at least notifying developers and property owners about, you know, the opportunities that may be along Schofield Avenue in TID 2. So she is going to be calling all the property owners along the way, especially those that we had that had been identified in the TID 2 project plan as redevelopment candidates. She was going to be then calling, and I guess the thought was that she would then just give a summary of how many contacts she made. I don't know how specific we can be, about if there's a development agreement maybe in the works or something. Sometimes these things are not necessarily gonna be public information until we get to the point of having something adopted by the board, but there can at least be a general outline or overview of what progress is being made, how many contacts. We already have had some inquiries, one from the former Alpine Mobile Home Park that's been referred down to her, so we're gonna involve her in any discussions we have about possible projects. I think there's some perception out there that somehow we have this pot of money we can just dip into and we're gonna open the cash register, but it really depends on each project and what they're gonna bring to the table. And we're trying to make that point made, you know, it's gonna depend on the project and and even in redevelopment cases, I guess, you know, we would find out, I suppose, if there's justification for some additional contribution, things like that. So, this can be presented or, you know, given every month if, that's the desire. I guess we didn't know really what your thoughts were, but I don't know what more we can do than that. I guess if we have a development agreement discussion going on with the board, we can probably, you know, disclose that, but sometimes those details then are being held more confidential until we get to some level of approval on those.
And I'm pretty sure people like Mr. Garrett are familiar, developers don't want to let go of the information because first off, as far as my understanding, it drives up the price.
Drives up the price and the developer that's doing it is working with a contractor and the contractor doesn't want anybody to know because then he doesn't want 10 other people taking over his project that he's
Competitors.
money invested in as well.
Right.
He wants to finish the project.
So hopefully the plan commission can understand that a lot of these things really shouldn't.
Working on something is better than nothing.
Right.
Right? We're working with somebody right now on this potential of something going on.
Correct.
Better than not hearing anything or us not knowing anything. I think we just want to see something, what's happening and what's moving. And just get some kind of report. I don't know, is it necessary to see it every month or do we need it every 3 months or?
Well, that's a question, I guess, if you want it every month or every 2 months, every quarter, whatever, I mean.
Well, I would
we'd be making the
Depends on how
same.
much money is
Well,
spent.
we're talking about a shorter window here. We got 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be hearing something on a monthly basis as far as, is there some activity?
Something, to me, it would be
Not
like,
necessarily having details.
When you say
depending
2
upon-
years, Joe,
What's that?
you said 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah, we only have 2 years.
2026 is the expenditure
period.
So period, so.
You have to commit to expenditures by 2026, but you can continue to make them as long as there's.
Is that beginning of 26 or end of 2026? End of 2026 would be expenditures, right?
To your point though, someone's not gonna come in here in April of 26.
I think it's March of twenty-six.
Probably March of 26.
So I mean, realistically,
Yeah,
It's 3 years then.
2-3 years
yeah,
tops.
at the most.
Yeah.
We've been around long enough, we know that it takes more than a couple months to do a project.
Oh, God, yeah.
If you're not spending 2 years on it, you're not doing due diligence. Because you haven't covered all the bases. So I personally think that if we get a response, this month I contacted so many people by phone, or I had so many contacts, I think it doesn't have to be a lot of detail, it's just that, hello, I'm still here, I'm working on the project.
I agree with you, Joe. That's what I said. Somebody needs to say, is it monthly, is it quarterly, what are we doing? But yeah, we are on a short window. You're right. We just want to make sure that things are moving, right? We really do.
Has she reached out to any of those property owners yet, or no?
She was looking to start. I was gonna say, does the village even have an agreement yet?
With Krista?
Yeah, yes, okay.
Okay.
All right, that's
And I would also say.
a good note.
We sat at those meetings and listened to the feedback from the public saying, who's watching over this?
Accountability.
Yes. And I'm just gonna be honest with you, I think everyone, I know my commitment to this is if I hear anything, I'm gonna shove as much as I can to this, but I think every one of us want to prove to the public that we can do this, right?
I just wanna see us be successful.
I really do wanna make sure that this is a successful project, if you're committed to it, right? For all of us.
Mr. Maloney.
I asked, Jen and I talked about this, but under the remarks of the last planning commission, you know, Gary had brought this up and it became more of a discussion instead of remark. And so that's why we put it back on here, just so that we're having this discussion now. You know, we don't wanna hold her to anything and we don't wanna tell her what to do. We gotta let her go and do what she does better than us. But to Joel's point, you know, just a little synopsis, you know, on a monthly basis, a little quick, you know, just like the tourism committee is doing, would be really nice just to keep us, you know, just on up to date, not divulging any information. We don't need to know that. I mean, she does this the best. We don't need to tell her what to do. And on dovetailing on top of that, you two had a meeting with her last Tuesday.
Thursday.
And Thursday, I thought you said Tuesday.
No, it was Tuesday.
That was Tuesday?
Not Thursday.
You told me Tuesday.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
it was
sorry.
Tuesday.
I was a little surprised on that because I guess I'm asking, what's the meeting about? I mean, we're not giving her any direction. She gets to just do her thing, right?
Well, no, because we get inquiries that come to us.
Yep,
And if we
okay.
get an inquiry, we want to be able to tell her, yes, okay, we're gonna get you in the loop and include you and.
Okay, that's not, when you had told me about the meeting, Keith, I guess I misunderstood
Okay.
what the meeting was about. So if you're dovetailing her in to
Feeding her
to make this work, I mean, right now, we wanna funnel everything to her. Even if it comes here and we think we can handle it, to make this successful, it's gotta go through her. Otherwise, in a couple of years, we're gonna question ourselves, why did we hire her?
We had to find out what type of contact information she wanted. So
Oh, yeah.
that was some of the discussion was just kind of talking through what we knew, what properties were
Yeah.
available.
The contacts.
Yeah, so we're
mean-
working to get lists
Okay.
of contacts. She wanted to know the emails.
Familiarity, you know, we had real quick, and I'll be done. So Keith and I had breakfast last week, and we talked to a resident, a longtime resident who's done a lot of businesses here and's got some property available. And he brought up, you know, a certain company that's kind of sniffing around the area. That's something that we should be telling Kirsten. You know, that's something that we should definitely be talking to her about. And of course, she should know about this property here that, you know, we want that developed too, so, yeah, right?
My only comment would be, if we get somebody that comes here that is gonna develop it anyway, but we give it to her, how are we measuring success? In other words, is it, if she didn't, kind of be like hiring a new salesperson and giving them $1 million account, and then you say, oh, look, I sold $1 million.
I think part of that needs to be, who referred the lead? Was this her contact or was this village?
Yeah.
That needs to be tracked.
But.
Yeah.
I think that's valuable anyway.
But what I don't want to happen, and I feel this could happen, is some form, some idea of competition. And this is, we're working together. And I mean, it easily, I'll say no.
With each other.
No, I don't think that. I sure wouldn't think
You
that.
know, just, a lot of people are gonna contact the village because they don't know she exists.
Right.
So what they're doing, I think, is okay to just get the information, then they can talk to them.
Back and forth. Yep.
Read it. Nobody gonna contact her unless she contacts them. That's
Her
the
plan
thing.
is to contact them specifically, but she wanted to find out the ones that were interested, that we knew that were interested. We've got some information from when Mark Roffers went and talked to property owners for the Schofield Avenue corridor plan, so I gave her that information.
Referring to a commercial customer. I think you're referring to, I think Hussein's referring to somebody that's coming into the area that wants to put a business here. I think. Well, like Aldi's wouldn't go to call her. They would certainly call her.
Well, Aldi's talked to the landowner and didn't come to us until last summer when they were already,
Yeah.
I mean, ready to go.
So that's what happens a lot of times too.
Mr. Donner?
So we would certainly be involving her anytime there's a request for TIF assistance, that's, you know, we wanted to contact people in terms of the availability of sites, and then if there's a development agreement being structured, she'd probably be the first one that's talking with them about terms, and then that's gonna be brought to us. I presume it's gonna be brought through me, and then would be taken to the board, so we have to have some interaction with her in this whole time, and it's not a competition. I don't look at it that way at all. We all succeed together, I guess is how it's gonna be.
And we actually gave her a copy of the current TIF application and she's reviewing that.
Yeah, we wanted her to review that.
To give some changes, because I'm sure there needs to be some.
Fixes if it's too complicated one spot or misses something.
Right.
Right.
And the only thing I can, when someone contacts the village first, and I think whoever speaks to them needs to assure us that we are working together with this person so that they don't think that they're getting handed off to somebody that doesn't know the product.
We have a situation where a business is looking at the possibility, or they know the possibilities of what their property is because they have been approached before. They inquired with me about meeting to talk about it. Keith and I, and we looped Kristen in, and we're going to attempt to all meet together.
That makes sense.
To talk about it.
Good. Any other discussion? Mr. Maloney, anything?
Oh, good to go. Thank you.
Okay. Can we move on? Okay, staff reports, item 11 and 12. Would you like to take both of those together? Unless there's something you need to add?
No, I don't even.
Okay.
Move to acknowledge.
Second. Both of them?
Yes.
Motion by Jordan, second by Cronin to acknowledge items 11 and 12. On the question? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. Miscellaneous, 13 project updates. This year, probably yours, Jen?
Yeah, I am going to work on getting you a copy of the park impact needs assessment. I will wait until we find out who the new committee members are, and get everyone a copy of that. It's basically in its final form. It's just coming up with the number. If you remember, we were asked to divide, and so there's two fees instead of just the one. So there's like a maintenance fee and a park, like a land fee. And so you guys just have to come up with what you think that fee should be. The study gives you a wide range that you can, because we have to go through this impact analysis to get that range, like the top range for you that you could charge. So then we just have, that's basically it, is coming up with that number. So I will get that out in May, so that we can talk about it. I talked about the metro-wide housing study, so that's gonna move forward on Thursday. We'll need to talk about the land use map, the future land use map and the comprehensive plan update. along with the corp. The corp has to be done this year. But the future land use map, we're gonna need to start talking about after we get done with the housing study and look at areas like Mr. Will's property. Because right now that's showing, we have a bunch of properties that are saying that it's gonna require sewer and water. So we need to talk about how potentially, how you wanna change that, because there's a couple different ways. You can change the map, or we can just change text in the comprehensive plan. So I guess just start thinking about it or looking at that map. Most of it's for areas in like the town, which would be the ETZ area or the areas that we would be expanding into to grow into the town. Site plan's currently being reviewed by staff. I should be finalizing the Nova truck wash this week, hopefully. We have gotten something for a parking lot addition at Aspirus, the clinic. I'm going to be putting in a big parking lot to the west on some land that they own there.
Across the street?
No,
No, they-
come to the south side,
Yeah.
southwest.
They're,
Between community center and the highway.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's to support the build out on the third floor.
yeah,
okay.
it's adjacent. And then there are 3 additions at Applied Laser that we just got last week, so they're adding on to 3 different portions of that building, so. That's kind of what we're working on, and hopefully Emily will be back soon.
Yeah, so is,
What is the
are there any
Mid-May, so she probably won't be at the next meeting.
other questions for Jen? Item 14, announcements and commissioner remarks. Mr. Zagami.
Nothing, thank you.
Karen.
Just besides, thank you for all your time and energy devoted to the community. You've done a great job with it.
Thank you. Mr. Cron?
I second that, and thank you, Steve, as well. Appreciate it.
Jordan?
Nothing?
Just thank you again for your years of service.
Thank you. Couple counts. Yeah. And I actually have a letter that I'm gonna give to Mr. Donner, so he'll have to read it. I'm gonna do it at the.
He's not gonna cry, is he?
I probably will, that's why I'm asking him to read it. So, Gary, after 46 years here in public service?
A lot of time, my friend.
Okay, so your next meeting will be Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
So who's gonna?
That's something Mark has to do.
The chair.
You'll have to pick a new.
Mark and I talked about his, us having a meeting on the 26th to go through appointments for the next year.
These are all appointments that Mark has to make.
Holy man.
There's a lot of them.
They're not all.
Yes, they all expire in 2022. All those ones that are highlighted.
I think there's a few hundred that aren't on there either. Keith was talking about,
There's some missing, yeah.
there's a few missing things and then that joint thing.
Joint review board is not.
Even on them, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's got you. When I grab a booth over at Dale's Weston Lanes in the back corner of the bar. I'll post the hours.
So, having completed all our business, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Garen, second by Cronin to adjourn. On the question? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much for all the years.
Oh.